In 1958, a psychologist at the University of Wisconsin took newborn monkeys away from their mothers and gave them two replacements. One was made of bare wire and fed them milk. The other was wrapped in soft cloth and gave them nothing at all. Then he waited to see which one they would call mother. Harry Harlow already knew what the textbooks predicted. At the time, the two leading schools of psychology agreed on the answer, and they agreed for different reasons. The behaviorists argued that an infant loves its mother because she is a food source, nothing more, a learned association between a face and a full stomach. The psychoanalysts arrived in roughly the same place from the other direction. Feed the infant, and attachment follows. The bond was, in the language of the day, cupboard love. If that were true, the wire mother should have won. She had the milk. She lost completely. The infant monkeys went to the wire mother only to feed, and the moment they finished, they went straight back to the cloth. They spent up to 18 hours a day clinging to a soft shape that gave them nothing, and minutes a day with the one keeping them alive. Harlow had a name for what they were choosing over food. He called it contact comfort. Then he tested what happened under fear. He introduced frightening objects into the cage, loud, mechanical, unfamiliar. The monkeys did not run toward the mother that fed them. Every time, they ran to the cloth. And once they were holding it, something else happened. They calmed enough to turn and look at the thing that had frightened them. The soft mother wasn't just comfort. She was the platform from which the world became survivable. Harlow found the same thing in reverse. He put infants alone in an unfamiliar room filled with objects they had never seen. With the cloth mother in the room, they would touch her, then venture out, explore an object, and return to her, over and over, using her as a base. With her removed, the same infants did not explore anything. They froze, curled up, screamed, and clutched themselves. The room hadn't changed. What changed was whether there was something in it to come back to. Here's where it gets stranger. Even the cloth mother wasn't enough. Monkeys raised on a soft surrogate did better than monkeys raised on wire alone, but when they were eventually placed with other monkeys, many still didn't function normally. They struggled to socialize, struggled to mate, and some of the females who did give birth were unable to mother their own infants. Softness bought something real, but it wasn't the whole thing. The cloth never responded. It never moved toward them, never reacted, never got it wrong and corrected itself. It turned out an infant needs more than something warm to hold. It needs something that answers back. But that's only half the story, and what comes next is what Harlow is both remembered and condemned for. He kept going. He raised monkeys in total isolation, some for months, in chambers with no contact of any kind. When those monkeys were finally returned to others, most could not recover. They rocked, they self-harmed, they could not form bonds, and many never functioned socially again. Harlow hadn't just proven that touch mattered. He had measured, with terrible precision, exactly what its absence destroyed, and how permanently. Here is why this reached far beyond a lab in Wisconsin. In the 1950s, hospitals and orphanages across the Western world ran on the opposite assumption. Children were kept clean, fed on schedule, and handled as little as possible because touch was believed to spread infection and encourage weakness. Parents were often restricted to brief visiting hours or barred outright. That wasn't cruelty, it was policy, built on the same theory Harlow's monkeys had just demolished. His work, alongside John Bowlby's, is a major reason that policy collapsed, which raises an uncomfortable question. The evidence that a child needs to be held was not obvious, not intuitive, and not believed. It had to be extracted from creatures who could not consent and paid for with their suffering. How many things you consider self-evident about being human are only self-evident now because somebody, somewhere, was made to prove them the hard way? So here's what those monkeys actually revealed. It isn't that food doesn't matter. It's that food was never the thing being sought. Underneath hunger there is something older and more urgent, and a full stomach does not touch it. Every one of those infants, given the choice between the thing keeping them alive and the thing that felt like being held, chose to be held, and went back to the wire only when the alternative was starving.